Hi everybody, here's Christian from Team Morecast. Welcome to our Pico-8 tutorial. We are going to develop Breakout or Arkanoid. But we're starting at the very basics here. Last episode we had like our hello world. And we're gonna load it up immediately. So this was Rick roll, right? There it is. There is a beautiful Rick roll. We're gonna run it. Bam, never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down and desert you. Hard. Yeah, so this was cool, but now we're gonna crank it up. We were just playing around with stuff, and that's fine. You can play around too if you want to do some fancy stuff. If you want to create some images with text, go ahead, have fun. It's very important, especially when you're starting with something creative like this, to just have fun. Don't be like, oh, I need to learn everything. I need to be the expert here. As soon as you see something that's like, hey, that's cool, just take your time and enjoy it. It's important to be comfortable with things rather than trying to push through and be like, I'm gonna learn everything. All right. So last time around we learned how to execute functions, like print is a function that we executed, or CLS is a function that we executed. Now we are going to do two very important basic things that are super important for programming. One of the things is writing your own functions, thing number one. And the second thing is variables. Two very basic things, very basic concepts. If you don't know how they work, now is when you learn. All right, so these are functions, right? But we haven't written these functions. They were given to us. We inherited those functions. We don't know how to clear the screen. We just typed in CLS and it cleared the screen for us. We haven't actually touched anything. Same with print. We don't know how to print works. We don't know how to print things on the screen. It came with Pico-8. There are functions that were kind of embedded in Pico-8. If you want to create your own function, you do it by just writing function. And now it turns pink. See, previously it turned green, indicating that it's a function that comes with Pico-8. But now we're writing our own function. So this is like a command that also Pico-8 understood, and it's like, don't say one word. I know exactly what you mean. You want to create a function. And I'm like, yes, Pico-8, exactly. We want to create a friggin' function. And we're going to call, now after the function, we're going to actually type out what the name of the function is. We're going to have to give the function a name. I'm going to go hello, but you can also go like poop or whatever. We're going to go with whatever. And then you open up the brackets and close the brackets again. What does it mean? Don't you worry about that for now. Just remember, open bracket, close bracket. Later on, we're going to get to this. For now, it's a mysterious special sign that you just have to do. And then we're going to put an end in the next line afterwards. And so now the idea of the function is that everything that we put inside, between the function and the end, is the function. And so the idea is that now we can go like whatever, right? And then it will execute everything inside the function. And so, for example, we can go like whatever, and it will execute everything that's inside the function 3 times. But it's not like it will execute 4 times. It's not like it's going to go whatever, and then execute the function. It will, the function is not executed unless it's called. Let me give you an example just so you know what I'm talking about, because this might be complicated. So I'm going to go again, very simple, hello, right? Oops. All right. So if I call this, we should get 3 times hello. Let's see if this works. It didn't work. What? This is great teaching, guys. This is great. You can tell. I'm gonna just in case I misspelled something, because it's very easy. I think I misspelled something. Yeah, I'm gonna call it what. What? This is awkward. Maybe I need to put it on top. Ah, that was the problem. All right, so it's first, I guess it needed to parse the function first, and then it executed the functions, whatever. So first we defined a function that just prints hello. And then we clear the screen, and then we execute this function 3 times. So now when you go like hello, and then yes, this is dog, then you get like a very, very long repetitive conversation, perhaps with a dog that has Alzheimer's. And then so, you know, every time he repeats, he doesn't remember that you already had this conversation with this dog. That's what I'm thinking. Another thing you can do is go like print na. And then down here, you're gonna go print. Well, first, like this, and then print Batman. Batman. Yeah, just having fun with this thing. I'm bummed out that this demo just now didn't work. Oh, I feel awkward. Anyways, so here are how functions work. Why? You might be thinking, why are we even learning this? This makes no sense. I can just, you know, just as well be like, whatever, just instead of all the watts here, I can just do it all without the function, just do it like this, right? This would be the same. Ha! There are special functions sometimes, and functions have some really great uses, which we're gonna learn very soon. Let me show you 3 special functions, very, very special, unique functions that you wanna write in every program. Every single program that you're gonna write will probably include those 3 functions. They have special names that you have to remember. The first one is underscore init. I hope it's underscore. I'm gonna go init. Ha! You already see a thing going on here. So this is a function called init underscore init, and this function gets executed at the very beginning of the program. When you run the program, it gets executed once, one time, automatically, without you having to do anything, just once. And usually you put in this function things that you want to do at the beginning of the program, like where it's like, okay, I'm going to clear the screen and show a start screen perhaps, and maybe start the music, and, you know, initiate all the things that I want to initiate. This is the kind of stuff that you put inside init. Right, so this is the first function, numero uno. The second function, and actually the third function, I'm going to do both at the same time. This one is called update. And this one is called draw. Now, at this point, I want to point out, this is unusual, this is special. Usually, you can name your functions whatever you want to, and you have to deal with them yourself. These are just for you to have. But Pico-8 knows 3 names of functions which are reserved for special use. And only those 3 are gonna get the special treatment, which is, one gets executed at the beginning. The update function and the draw function are executed every frame. Every single frame of your game, those 2 functions get executed. First update, then draw. And whatever is inside this functions get called every single frame. So, the game will run at 30 or 60 frames per second, depending on, what kind of settings you do. And every single frame of those 60 frames per second or 30 frames per second, everything inside those functions will get called. So if I run this now, you see update, draw, update, draw, update, draw. Every second it gets draw, all this stuff is updated. And you can see it's continuous, like, it just scrolls down and continues forever. And this is something very important. This is a concept known as game loop. And every game has a game loop. And usually programming or exploring like a programming environment is about finding out how do I get my basic game loops going. Sometimes it's easy, like here. Sometimes it's difficult, like when you're using Excel to make games, Where's my game loop? The reason why is because most of the time games are very reactive. They do things, they are animated, they're constantly getting inputs from the player, especially arcade type of games. And so every frame there's something happening, and you need kind of like a function that deals with the things that are happening every frame of the game. So you might be wondering, like, okay, so two functions get called every frame. Why are there two functions? Why isn't just update? Why do you have to? Why is there this distinction between draw and update? They are slightly different. Most of the time, you will see no difference, and most of the programs will probably run if you just put everything in update or in draw. It will just make no difference. But in certain cases, there is a tiny little difference. The difference is that update gets really called 30 frames per second, 30 times per second, or 60 frames per second. Every time. It will just go like straight for it, no matter what happens. Draw will sometimes get skipped. So when, for example, you're doing a lot of calculations and your game starts lagging behind and Pico realizes, wait a minute, we don't have time for this. We don't have time to cram 30 updates, 30 times the calls of this function in this 1 second. It will just say, you know what, let's just skip one of the draw functions just so we can catch up with our clock. Update doesn't happen. Just hardcore every at 30 frames per second hardcore. So what you'd usually do is in update you put things where the game state changes, like moving things, colliding things, stuff like that, updating the score, stuff like that. In a draw function, you usually put things that cost time, that are difficult to do for the program, especially things like drawing things on the screen. So your frame rate might be visibly dropping. It will seem a little bit more choppy, but still the speed remains the same. If you would put everything in an update, once your game gets very elaborate, visually elaborate, you would see a slowdown. The game would just start going slower and slower, not only just lower frame rate, but also visibly going slower. And sometimes that's actually a very cool thing to do. Like a lot of bullet hell shooters do this, where it's like the big boss explodes and then the game starts chugging and getting like the slow motion thing, and it looks like Matrix. Sometimes you want to do this. I just wanted to like spell out the differences here. Cool. So now if you run this, you already see that also this game goes in for infinity. Good. So after we introduce you to these three functions, we are going to I'm going to put the CLS inside the init, because this is what happens at the beginning of the program. So now we are going to, I'm going to show you how, what variables are. This is the second thing. The first thing was functions. We kind of have functions roughly covered now. Now we're going to move on to the variables, which seems like, very mathematical, and it kind of is, but it's really cool. So remember how we had like the print heart? I think that was Shift H, right? And then, 30, 35, 8, right? I'm going to put this in a draw function. And if I run this, you can see, oh, there's a heart now. So what if you want to move this heart, right? What if you want to just let's make it like bounce across the screen? Well, we can't, right? Because there's like every frame we just put it on this coordinate 30, 35. And we want to have situations where we change the coordinates, where the coordinates are not fixed but variable, right? So that's where variables come in. And they're very easy to do in Pico-8, and this is Lua. The programming language is Lua. So variables are basically like containers, like a cup. Do I have a cup here? Well, I have a can of spray of compressed air. So this would be a variable that contains compressed air, right? But variables are not for compressed air, they are for data. And usually it's like numbers. There's a number that is inside a variable. There could be also text. For example, the name of your character in an RPG is stored in a variable. Or like maybe you have like a very complex RPG and there is a backstory of the character and it's that stored in a variable. You can store very complex things, like maybe there is like, I don't know, it's a game where you can change the look of your character, and then maybe the visual appearance of your character is also stored in a variable. You can store lots of things in variables. You can make very complex variables, but we're going to deal just with the simplest ones. So, for example, and again with like functions, you can give variables any name you want to have. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to go like poo. That's the name of my variable. I'm going to call it poo equals 5. So whatever poo is, we have 5 of this. So now we stored the number 5 in a variable called poo. We can also have a variable called but, and we go equals big. Because sometimes, you want to know exactly what kind of adjective is adjectives associated with a but. So now we have like actually it's about buttons in real life. So now we stored the text big, the letters big, inside a variable called but. And it's, you can just go ahead and do whatever. There is a third type of data you can store in them, which is awesome. I'm going to call it awesome. This variable is called awesome. And then we go true. And notice how I didn't use parentheses now, because this is not the text true, is actually whether something is true or false. It can be only true or false. It doesn't accept a maybe. It doesn't go blue, as you can tell. It's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Different variable, perhaps? It can be only true or false. So these are basically 3 types of variables. You can store numbers in here. You can store text in here. Or you can store true or false. The last one is called Boolean. This one with the text is called string. And this one is called number, I guess. It's not very creative. Right. So why? Right? Why do we have this? What can we do with those variables? Well, the cool thing is every time you have one of those values, for example, down here in print, right, where we have the heart, you can go, instead of the heart, you can go but, right? And so now the but is a stand-in for the heart that we had previously. Same with the number here. I'm going to run this now, and you can see that we're going to get a red but, actually big. So now we have a big instead of the heart, because we saved the text big inside but. We can go now with hello there. And we'll go now go with hello there. You can put whatever you want in here. And we had a heart previously, so why don't we go back to the heart? So you can see easily how this can be used, for example, let's say you have a roguelike, like a role-playing thing, and this would be the sprite of the character, and you can change, what kind of letter your character is represented by, for example. Right. And you can do the same with the 30 here. You can see how we have 30. We can go poo instead of the 30. And now, if you run this, you can see that the heart is way to the left now. And if we're gonna go make it go to the right, we're gonna go 50, and now it's further to the right. Still, it seems like we haven't really changed a lot. Like, okay, it was static on different places on the screen, and now it's a more complicated way to do things, right? We haven't really changed things. Haha. This is now where things change, man. So the cool thing at variables is that you can change those variables as you execute the program, and then things will change, right? Right. First of all, let me put the CLS in the draw function. So we're going to clear the screen every frame and then redraw the heart over again. Nothing changed now. I'm just going to run it, nothing changed. And you have to do it as a precaution, because what happens now will look really weird if you don't have the CLS in draw. All right, so we're going to go poo equals poo plus 1. Now, if you had shown this to your math teacher in high school, they would get an aneurysm, because it's like, that can't be right. Poo can't be poo plus 1. That would be, that's not a real equation, right? That can't be. But in programming it works, because the equation it's not actually an equation, it's an assignment. You assign to the variable poo the value of whatever was in poo before, and you add 1 to it. And as you can see, we put this in our update function, so this happens 30 times per second, right? So if we start poo at 1 and run this, our heart goes to the right. Oh my gosh. Holy crap. So now we can go like poo and pee. And then we go, instead of the 35, we're going to go p. And then we make 2 lines in the update function, one that adds 1 to poo, another one that adds 1 to p. And if you run this, it goes diagonally because it moves to the side and downwards. Are you excited as I am? I'm so excited, man. Right. So this is how variables work. This is how you can move things on the screen. This is how you can create animations. This is how you change variables as things are getting executed. And there's one thing that we can try. I didn't test it yet, so maybe it will backfire horribly, but you can see that we can also, like the 8 in here, right? This could be also variable. What happens if we make, I'm gonna call for colon, for color. We're gonna start with a color with 0. And when we do the same thing that we did with poo and p, we're gonna do with color, right? We're gonna add 1 to it every frame. What happens if we plug this into the color? I don't know what happens. Let's see. This is what programming is. We're gonna plug in things into things. It's a flashing heart now because it changes the color every frame, right? Right. I wanted to also add that I'm naming my variables in a weird way, simply because later on we're just going to go with X and Y, and that's fine, but it's a bit boring. And you know, there is a secret to programming, which is this is sometimes a very dull task, so it's very important to find those little things to make this a bit more manageable and more fun. One thing is, for example, every time I'm working with buttons, the variables are always abbreviated to but. So for example, if you have a variable that's associated with a button that goes down, you go with down but, right? And if you have a variable that's associated with a button going up, you go definitely up but. There might be a big button coming, you can go with big but, and so forth. And you can imagine your own variables being named in a similar fashion. All right, so this was a very, very long lesson. We learned a lot of really conceptual stuff. We learned how we can write our own function. We learned the three musketeers of Pico-8 development: the init function, the update function, and the draw function. And we also learned a little bit something about variables, how we can use variables to make things happen in a program. So next time, we're going to try to make this heart that was moving there, we're going to try to make it bounce across the screen. We're going to make things actually change throughout it, like not just looping and repeating the same thing over and over again, but actually making things change throughout the program. That's something that comes up next time. See you next time around. Bye bye, guys.